Hello, this is Paul Lennon from ReGAIN. Greetings, above all, on this 23rd of February 2019. As I speak, there's an official Catholic summit in Rome convened by His Holiness Francis regarding clerical pedophilia. Leading up to this official summit and parallel to the summit, groups concerned about clergy abuse, homosexuality, and church reform are holding their parallel summits. So there's a lot of effervescence in Rome as I'm speaking. Allow me to state very plainly that ReGAIN does not belong to any of the political, um, groups in the church or parties, um, left, right, north or south, shall we say, because we want to focus on what unites us as Catholics and Christians more than what divides us, because our goals are different from controversy and divisions in the Catholic Church. So we always try to focus as best we can on what unites us as Catholics and Christians more than what divides us. Also, we do not want to let our possible ideological faith content distract us from our purpose, a purpose that goes back more than 30 years and remains the same. The goal, the mission of ReGAIN is to inform the public, Catholic, Christian, religious, believers, non-believers, all religions, of the true natures of this controversial Catholic order called the Legionaries of Christ. It has been dogged by controversy since its inception, 1940 in Mexico. The Legion of Christ owes its existence, let us not forget, to the entrepreneurship of a Mexican priest, predatory pedophile, and con man. So we have a contrast in Father Maciel, the founder. He apparently was able to do great things. He's an entrepreneur. Maybe he should have been a great banker, a great businessman in Mexico, but for some reason he focused on wanting to be a priest and wanting to found a religious order from his adolescence, one might say. I will leave it to the psychiatrist to examine that, and there is a very good and deep book written by Fernando Gonzalez in Spanish, unfortunately, which is not available unless we speak that beautiful language. And it's called Father Maciel, Legion of Christ, unedited, unpublished documents and testimonies. And that's the fullest psychological, psychiatric, sociological study of Father Maciel and the Legion that exists as far as I'm concerned. But I say it owes existence to Father Maciel. Summarizing the history of the order, we could say that it exists thanks, a little on the attack here, forgive me. The Legion exists because of sins of omission by the Vatican. Even though we normally do not want to criticize particular persons in the Catholic hierarchy, that is not our mission, because again, it divides us, it separates us, it distracts us. However, time and time again, the Legion and its founder have come under Vatican scrutiny because people have complained, parents have complained about abuses, ex-members have also tried to raise their voice. And so the Legion has come under the Vatican scrutiny, especially the founder. And I think there's a disconnect there also in the Vatican between the founder and the works. And when the Vatican has intervened and looked benignly at the founder, and then even more benignly at his work, it has tried to separate the two things. And that is basically the Vatican position, as we see vis-a-vis controversy, vis-a-vis criticism. But even so, the Legion and the founder has come under scrutiny and has been investigated. only to be met with a certain amount of evasion, avoidance, and layers of Vatican bureaucracy, which end up doing nothing. And that's why you can notice we're a little bit concerned um, with our, what would we might say, our righteous, hopefully righteous indignation because of the lack of action, the lack of measures being taken. On occasions, we must admit that Father Maciel has been too astute for church authorities and has survived like the proverbial cat. He has been able to penetrate Vatican halls very astutely and gain alliances through sleight and deceit, not excluding bribery and blackmailing. The support of Vatican powerhouse Cardinal Angelo Sodano has been his monarch during the years, even during the latest decades when his disreputable behavior could no longer be hidden. In a nutshell, Father Maciel and the Legion of Christ have survived from its beginnings in the 1940s to the present day because what I consider, forgive my audacity, negligence and a laissez-faire attitude. You might say there was an original sin committed when the Legion was first approved as an institution of diocesan right, way back in 1948. And here, Father Maciel very astutely got around his local Mexican superiors to have it approved despite obstacles and objections by other ecclesiastics. You might say Father Maciel outwitted his Mexican superiors. Leitmotif, outwitting the others. And once the order got on a roll and with increased recruiting and fundraising, it snowballed into the powerful and rich organization it is today. Forgive me. Instead of playing the role of Christ, Peter, and Paul, the Vatican, instead of being more skeptical about the Vatican has chosen to play the part of Pontius Pilate. It continues with its hands-off approach and its laissez-faire, as we say, and to this organization, which keeps abusing its members and in a cult-like way. Another kind of a blind, what we call this, a blind spot for the Vatican. The Vatican is having a really hard time understanding that there could be in its heart, in the center, in its own center, cult-like, high-demand, coercive groups. It just does not want to admit that. It does not want to contemplate that. Perhaps it's slowly getting around to recognize it and to acknowledge it because the evidence is more and more undeniable. It's more and more clear every day. Thank goodness Cardinal Bras de Assis, who now is the prefect or boss of the Vatican Congregation for Religious Orders and for lay societies, he's finally getting on the bandwagon here, and recently he has stated that there are at least 70 groups in the Catholic Church which are under his scrutiny as we speak because of their abusive modus operandi / cult-like system which is in place. Some American bishops, we must say, have been more assertive than Vatican groups, Vatican departments, and have put a stop to the Legion of Christ and the Regnum Christi operating in their dioceses. A prime example of Legion and Vatican omission is the way Maciel's original victim accusers have been treated. They were not even invited to Rome. Their voice will not be heard, was not heard in Rome among the testimonies that were given. That is kind of like, for some reason, it's a taboo subject. What about the big problem with Father Maciel in Mexico, which required the direct intervention of Pope Benedict when Pope John Paul II had lauded Maciel as an ideal for youth an example for youth in the 20th century. What a mistake. When Maciel's moral aberrations could no longer be denied, the Vatican and the Legion, always dragging its feet, have acknowledged the abuses, as the men now are in their 70s and 80s, and some are living in extreme poverty. The Legion is waiting for them to die off so as to avoid paying any compensation. ReGAIN has vigorously denounced the unchristian behavior of the Legion and the neglect of Vatican leadership. But the problem is larger than this. Well-intentioned but gullible traditional conservative Catholics, I don't know what to call them, forgive me for any derogatory way of speaking. These good Catholics continue to be deceived by the Legion Regnum Christi claims of orthodoxy, clarity in their turbulent times. These well-meaning Catholics continue to be deceived by the appearances, by what a British author, writing about the Anglican Church calls the glittering images. This is what we're deceived by, the glittering images of these lovely priests, of these handsome priests, of these well-dressed priests, of these eloquent priests, of the strict clerical garb priests with their high Roman collars, never putting a step wrong except when another sex abuse scandal erupts and points the finger at a very, very flawed legionary formation. They continue to be deceived by appearances. What's my favorite phrase? All that glitters is not gold. Forgive me, forgive my skepticism, but you are being deceived, my dear friends. And when your children come out of this organization, come out of the Legion, and come out of the Regnum Christi, your sons and your daughters, when they come out as shipwrecked souls, who is going to take care of them? For every 40 ordained, there is 400 shipwrecked and lost Catholics. Maybe losing their faith in the Catholic Church. Maybe they're losing their faith in Jesus Christ. Maybe they are losing their faith in Christianity. But this is what we in ReGAIN have to face every day of the week. We're the ones who receive the sad stories when the glitter, when the gold has fallen off the wooden images, and we are left with the reality of what the Legion of Christ and the Regnum Christi really are. We are really concerned, myself and my colleagues, my friends, the former legionaries of Christ, over 2,000 of them writing in the Spanish language as we speak in Legio Leaks. Don't be afraid to go there. It's mostly in Spanish, but there are also some English language interventions. So this is what we're concerned about. We're sad. We're concerned. And sometimes we're angry. Forgive us. But time is running out. And for Father Maciel's original victims, for his crimes which he never paid the price, even after being supposedly given the slap on the wrist by Pope Benedict, Maciel continued, paid no attention to the Vatican orders, suggestions, recommendations, and continued to live a life of luxury. And he died laughing, perhaps, while the victims are still hurting, wounded, traumatized by what occurred to them years ago. And also the victims who were abused by other legionaries, by a novice master, by a director of the apostolic school, of that anachronic junior seminaries that the Legion keeps running, of all countries in the good old United States, even though it must be recognized that the Legion receives most of its recruits and most of its priests from its junior seminaries in Mexico, where the boys enter at the age of 10 or 11, going into middle school, shall we say. These are the priests. These are the priests who've been giving this varnish of orthodoxy, a very flimsy theological and philosophical background, with their glimmering images, their glittering images. And you, my dear friend, are being deceived to this very day. ReGAIN, together with a few other voices in the wilderness, such as Veritas Liberabit boasts, and what I already have mentioned of Legio Leaks, we continue to cry out like a voice in the desert. My dear Catholics, my dear brothers and sisters, we are not the enemy. We are believers. We still believe despite it all. But we ask you to please wake up. Let us stop fighting and squabbling among ourselves about our doctrinal differences, about our left and our right and our conservative and progressive, and pay attention to what is really important. Do not let our church be infiltrated by pedophiles, by priests with a very flawed sexual preparation for the priesthood, and especially by groups which are cult-like in their operation. They are coercive, they are punishing of their members. And let us remember a definition given by Michael Langoni, the Executive Director of International Cultic Studies Association, which association has so much to teach us to get to the roots of what the Legion of Christ and other questionable Catholic groups are all about. Look at their modus operandi. Look at the way they operate. Forget the doctrine, forget the content. It's the way they operate, the way they treat their members. That is what makes them look cult-like, not the doctrine, the way they treat their members. And forgive me, now they will say I'm ranting and raving. That was the Legion's defense the day they had me in court. Yes, Mr. Lennon continues to be ranting and raving because I dare to question, because I'm serious, because I've always been skeptical, because I'm never deceived by appearances, whether it be persons or whether it be institutions, and whether it be holy or so-called holy, approved, official institutions within the limits of the Catholic Church. So please, my dear brothers and sisters, let us pay attention. ReGAIN and other prophetic voices are out there. Listen to us. Thank you.